Innovations Fair 2023, Make It Meaningful Literacy Adaptations with Maya Alarid-Peace, Early Childhood Program Instructor, and Stephanie Rivera, Early Childhood Programs Instructor.
Hi, I'm Stephanie. So when I think about literacy access, I know that we have to address several of the potential barriers our students with visual impairments often have, which are visual, conceptual, and physical access. These are often intensified for our students with additional disabilities and developmental delays. And so to address these barriers, we expand our literacy and activity planning with tactile, auditory, and movement motor accommodations. We're going to share with you how this all comes together through collaboration with our team and planning. And here are examples of our collaboration on materials.
I'm Maya. When designing literacy activities for our students with visual impairments, we choose our themes and concepts based on seasonal activities that the students may be experiencing at home and in their community. We then embed concepts that correspond to their cognitive levels, IEP goals, next steps, and their interests. Literacy activities, as well as classroom activities, incorporate not only cognitive and vision goals, but also related service goals in the areas of gross and fine motor, speech, and orientation and mobility. Typically, children learn from the pictures and words of the book, then rely on other experiences throughout the child's day and community to reinforce the concepts and language from the book. For our students, we need to plan opportunities to provide hands-on, multisensory experiences through our instruction and materials. My students are in an intensive support classroom and the sensory motor learning stage. They need concrete experiences that allow for sensory exploration. Reading a book and showing pictures doesn't meet their learning needs. There are significant physical limitations which I take into consideration when choosing a book to adapt. This picture is from our spring theme. I used the book, The Tiny Seed. For this theme, the team wanted to focus on reaching, in and out, warm, cold, hand-eye coordination, and sensory exploration concepts. The book is rich with tactile opportunities for sensory exploration. It just needed to be adapted for my students to reduce visual clutter from the original. For the cognitive level of my students, I also chose real objects instead of the illustrated pictures because these were more meaningful for them, as well as providing opportunities to tactually manipulate and to explore using all their senses. In the picture, we have a sun-shaped bean bag that we warmed up, a bin of ice, a bucket of dirt, real sunflower seeds, pretend flowers that were able to hold up to many hands, and the adapted book with simplified pictures, including real images and high contrast. Prior to introducing these sensory materials, I also implemented a brushing program with direction from my occupational therapist for specific students to prepare their systems for tactile exploration. Following the story time, my class also went out to the garden area of our playground where the students were able to smell and feel yellow daffodil flowers that helped them to relate to the fake flowers that we were using in our story time. This led to other garden-related activities with my occupational therapist, such as planting flower bulbs.
So my class is a class of very diverse learners. I have a student that, handed an object, will kind of toss it right at me. While I have another student who is ready to listen to the adapted story and start addressing like WH questions. So I have a very diverse population. So I found this great book online. Then I adapted it to meet the learning needs and concepts that the team and I had decided that we wanted to address. So I really collaborated closely with my SLP and my O&M for this one. So my class is working on transitioning from real to more abstract concepts. Therefore, I have a mixture of real, pretend, and two-dimensional representations for the book. So the book used apples and the tree and a cat to teach concepts, but I changed the concepts from the original book to what my students needed based on the conversations that I had with my O&M and my SLP. I think what was kind of challenging about meeting the needs of such a diverse group is like, what is going to keep them all engaged? What do they all enjoy? Like, what is their interest? And I think when planning this, I realized that they all were very interested in pretend play. And so I find that this is how I engaged them into the literacy activity, was by making it more of like a pretend play activity. And so that's how it kind of like, I was able to engage all of my my learners. So the result is what's in the picture. I have a basket with 5 apples, and they all have Velcro on them, and a stuffed animal to act out parts of the story and demonstrate positional concepts. I created a laminated paper tree with Velcro at the top and next to it, because we were addressing next to and top. And then there was sticks glued onto the trunk for students who needed that tactile piece to orient themselves. And then to support fine motor needs based on the goals from the OT for a student, I had, we worked on apple size. So we had to really make sure that we had apples that were accessible to the student who needed one that would fit in her hand and meet her fine motor needs. And so I collaborated closely with the OT to make sure that she also had access to some of our objects. We address the themes and the concepts throughout the day, not only in my activities that I design, but the therapist and the related staff also design some of our activities, and we address these themes and concepts throughout. And this helps the students kind of generalize from the literacy activity while also making the literacy activity more meaningful. So to make sure that all of these activities are accessible, it requires collaboration with our OTs, our SLPs, and our O&Ms to get ideas for appropriate objects, picture cues, switches, what's the best positioning for them to access the materials both visually and tactually. So in this picture on the left, we took a tree from my literacy activity, and the O&M did an apple hunt throughout the school to work on visual scanning and then generalizing those literacy concepts. She also worked on navigation and route familiarization. We also do like cooking activities with our SLP for language, choices and sequencing, and we also do theme-related art activities with our OT.
And in the picture on the right, it's a picture of my physical therapist and my educational assistant working with 2 of our students. And so this activity came about from a conversation that I had with my physical therapist, talking about how she could support the literacy theme that we were doing with a related activity. And so in this picture, she really wanted to come up with modified yoga moves and range of motion stretches that could tie into the story, but were also related to each student's individual IEP goals. And so she was able to work on gross motor movements by working on some of these stretches and yoga moves, and just helping to build the strength that the students need while they're listening to the story and working on kind of lifting their heads, such as demonstrating how the flowers would grow and stretching their arms. And so this was a nice tie-in that she had here. And on this page, we really wanted to highlight how we collaborate with our families, because as we know, so much of the work that happens with our students is much more successful when it doesn't just stay in home or at school, but it carries over to the home environment as well. So each month when we do create books, we create related activities, we communicate these with our families. So we'll choose a book, we'll focus on that book throughout the month, and then at the end of the month, we'll send it home. And at the end of each book, there's a page that talks about the activities that we do, so that families can work on some of these activities at home as well. So for this activity, this page here, it just shows the original page. The first top picture on the left is a page from the book. And so the picture underneath it shows how we modified the original illustration. So we used a photo of a real picture of leaves embedded in ice. We simplified the language that was in the original book. And then the picture on the bottom right shows a student in a related activity. So we got the ice, we put some fake leaves in it, and so the students could explore it using their senses. Underneath the bin of ice, we also used a flashlight so that it would draw their visual attention down to the ice for students who need that additional support. And then the picture on the top right shows a student who is doing a related art activity in the book. And so for these, we used mylar leaves that were just one step removed from our fake leaves and our real leaves, which we also explored. And the student put that in the book, and we were able to, again, use a flashlight to draw their visual attention to that. So this is something that we discuss with families, and families we take pictures of students using them, and families can repeat this activity at home and build their own collection of literacy books that are directed especially at the students' cognitive and visual needs.
NMS BVI Innovations Department, New Mexico School for the Blind and Visually Impaired, Alamogordo, Albuquerque, statewide outreach, 1-800-437-3505, www.nmsbvi.k12.nm.us, spring 2023.